In the bustling city of Baghdad, during the reign of Caliph Harun al-Rashid, lived a poor porter named Sindbad the Hamal. Each day, he carried heavy burdens on his head, striving to make a meager living. One particularly hot day, exhausted from his load, he paused to rest on a bench outside a merchant's door. As he sat there, the melodic sounds of music and recitations drifted from within. Curious, Sindbad peered through the door and was captivated by a magnificent garden and the flurry of servants attending to their duties. It felt like a scene from a royal palace. Overwhelmed by the beauty, he raised his hands in prayer, reciting verses in gratitude. After finishing, he prepared to leave, but a young page emerged and beckoned him inside, where a distinguished man awaited. This man, who bore the marks of age with a touch of grace, welcomed Sindbad warmly, inviting him to sit. The poor porter was treated to an exquisite meal, and as he relished the food, he expressed his gratitude for the hospitality received. The man introduced himself as Sinbad of the Sea and requested to hear the verses Sindbad the Hamal had recited earlier. Though feeling embarrassed, Sindbad obliged and recited once more, earning the admiration of his host. Sindbad of the Sea began to share his extraordinary tale, recounting his 7 voyages that had brought him both wealth and wonder. He spoke of a prosperous father who had left him a legacy of riches, which he squandered in a carefree lifestyle. Realizing his folly too late, he sold all he owned, collecting 3,000 silver coins, and set off to explore distant lands. After embarking on a ship to Basra, Sindbad traveled across seas and islands, trading goods and seeking fortune. One fateful day, they arrived at an island that appeared to be a paradise. As the crew enjoyed their time, their captain suddenly warned them that the island was, in fact, a great fish beneath the sand. Alarmed, the crew scrambled to board their ship, but many, including Sindbad, could not escape in time. The island submerged, plunging him into the depths of the sea. Miraculously, Sindbad found himself in a large wooden bowl, which floated to a nearby island. Exhausted and numb, he eventually crawled ashore and recovered his strength by feasting on the island's fruits and drinking from its springs. While exploring, he stumbled upon a mare that cried out, attracting the attention of a man who emerged from beneath the ground. This stranger, a groom for King Mihrjan, explained the existence of a hidden community responsible for tending to the king's magnificent horses. He welcomed Sindbad into their subterranean home, offering him food and companionship. The groom then revealed that the mares they cared for attracted seahorses, which were highly valuable. With the intention of helping Sindbad return to his homeland, the man took him to meet King Mihrjan. Upon arrival, the king welcomed Sindbad and listened to his remarkable story, expressing gratitude for his safe arrival. Impressed by Sindbad's resilience and resourcefulness, King Mihrjan appointed him as the superintendent of the seaport, where he oversaw every vessel that docked. Sindbad was honored with fine robes and privileges, but his heart longed for Baghdad. Despite his newfound position, he often inquired about the path back home, yet no one could provide answers. One day, while visiting the king, Sindbad encountered a group of Indians who had traveled from distant lands. Drawn by curiosity, he engaged with them, eager to learn more about their journeys and share in their tales of adventure, all the while dreaming of the day he would return to the life he once knew in Baghdad. As Sindbad the Hamal conversed with the Indian travelers, he learned of their diverse origins. They hailed from noble lineages, including the Shakiriya, who were known for their honor and restraint, and the Brahmin, who abstained from wine. Sindbad was astonished to discover that the Indian society was divided into 72 distinct classes, each with its own customs and traditions. During his time in the service of King Mihrjan, Sindbad witnessed many marvels. He learned of an island named Qasl, where music echoed through the night. In the depths of the sea, he encountered enormous fish, some reaching lengths of 200 cubits, which terrified the local fishermen. He marveled at a peculiar fish with the face of an owl and discovered countless other wonders that filled his days with awe. One day, as he stood by the shore, a ship approached and anchored. The crew began unloading their cargo, and curiosity compelled Sindbad to inquire about the ship's contents. The captain revealed that the merchant who owned the goods had drowned at sea, and they intended to sell the items to support his family back in Baghdad. Upon hearing the merchant's name, Sindbad of the Sea, an unexpected realization struck Sindbad the Hamal. He was, in fact, that very Sindbad. With excitement, he proclaimed his identity, but the ship's captain was skeptical. He explained that since many passengers had perished, it was improbable for one to have survived. Undeterred, Sindbad recounted in detail the events of his journey, including the perilous moment when they had landed on the back of a giant fish. His account swayed the captain, who finally agreed to return Sindbad's belongings, which still bore his name. Grateful for the captain's understanding, Sindbad retrieved his goods and offered some of the finest items as gifts to King Mihrjan. The king, pleased by Sindbad's generosity, reciprocated with a grand gift of his own. With newfound wealth, Sindbad sold his possessions for a substantial profit, and when it was time for the ship to depart, he took a moment to express his gratitude to the king before embarking on his journey home. After a brief stay in Basra, Sindbad returned to Baghdad, where he was joyfully welcomed by friends and family. With his fortune restored, he employed many servants and acquired even more properties than he had previously owned. This marked the end of his first voyage, a tale of adventure and resilience.